So a lot of people ask, hey, Joe, do I have to get a college degree to get a career in cybersecurity? The answer is absolutely not.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into our newest series, Cybersecurity 101 with Gun and Joe. My name is Gun, and I'm the host of the show. And today we're going to talk about a career in cybersecurity. So now I'd like to introduce our guest, Joe. Joe, welcome. Could you briefly introduce yourself and share some of the ways to get into cybersecurity and what some career paths are?
Gun, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because there's so many people that are interested in getting into cybersecurity, and there's so many jobs out there that are available and waiting for people to get into this career. My name is Joe Stalker, and I've been in cybersecurity since 2004. Prior to that, I was a help desk and systems administrator for various organizations going back to the late 90s. My career in cybersecurity really started in 2004 when I passed a certification exam. It was a CISSP certification, and this is one of the top cybersecurity certifications that are out there. So prior to that, I had been doing security as part of my job. So for example, somebody who's doing help desk or IT services, there's always a component of security in their job. And this was one of my main focuses prior to obtaining the cybersecurity certification. It was a passion of mine, a hobby of mine, and I was able to be responsible for security projects at the organizations that I had been working for. When I obtained the CISSP, this was a game changer certification for me. It really opened up a lot of doors. And so we'll talk about how certifications in today's cybersecurity market are more valuable and more marketable than a college degree. So a lot of people ask, hey, Joe, do I have to get a college degree to get a career in cybersecurity? The answer is absolutely not. There's so many professionals that I know that have been very successful that never had a college degree. And there's a fewer number of cybersecurity professionals that have been able to achieve great heights without certifications. Certifications oftentimes are a requirement for a job. So it'll get you in the door, it'll separate your resume from others that may not have those certifications. That's not always true, but it's oftentimes the rule of thumb, right? Other times people that are maybe at a company and they transition over to the security team, maybe they were able to do that because of relationships. And so maybe they had no prior certifications. And so they could be in their career for 20 years and not have any of the top certifications because it just wasn't necessary. People knew them. They were able to do the job fine without it. So it's not always the case, but it's oftentimes the case, especially if you're switching careers. People are really going to be looking for some of those certifications. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to share with you just a little bit about cybersecurity overall. In this particular screen, what we're looking at are just some general cybersecurity domains. So for example, there's a threat intelligence domain. And so these folks are constantly researching external and internal threats. You have the area of security operations. So every large and even oftentimes medium-sized companies will have a dedicated team of security experts that are responsible for detecting threats to the environment. We call these security operations centers, and they're responsible for oftentimes detecting threats. Oftentimes you'll have frameworks and standards of how these things should be done. Career development, so you have organizations like SANS that are writing training courses for people to attend to advance their cybersecurity careers. We'll talk more about that. And then you have identity management solutions, which are under security architecture, cryptography, network design. So oftentimes large organizations will have security architects that are really designing the whole thing. They're taking into consideration the frameworks. Oftentimes these folks are, constantly going to conferences and certifications and training and peer groups and whatnot. They will make sure that the security operations team have the best systems and SIEMs in place. So they're designing those, making sure that those get connected to everything. You've got the risk assessment group over here. They're performing vulnerability scans. Sometimes these risk assessments are actually being in smaller groups, maybe by the security architect group. Maybe they're overseeing those, depending on the structure and how the security organization is organized. You've got this concept of these teams. One team is focused on breaking into things. The other team is focused on trying to learn and defend against those. In a very mature organization, the two teams are collaborating and working together and sharing knowledge and learning from each other in order for the whole organization to benefit from that. And governance is important because there's certain laws, like if you have employees in the state of California, or if you actually have customers in California, or customers in various states like Virginia, Colorado, maybe the European Union. There's 28 member nations, and if you have customers or employees over there, they have privacy rights, and you have to inform them oftentimes within 72 hours that their data has been accessed in a breach. And so that's why the breach notification is oftentimes governed by these laws and regulations. This shows kind of a career map. Security analysts or SOC analysts are kind of these entry-level positions here. And then as you progress from entry level, you kind of choose your own adventure here of, if you want to get into penetration testing, that's kind of those like red team, trying to hack into an organization with permission, of course, and consulting, working for a consulting organization like the one I own. So I own a company that does security consulting, and you have these various types of positions here. This is an example of the CompTIA certification exam. So there's other certification authorities like ISC. This just kind of shows you the wide variety of certification roadmaps that exist. So if you wanted, for example, to get into information security, these blue certifications over here show you, at the beginning, you would take the security fundamentals certification course, and as you progress, maybe the Security Plus is the next most common certification. As you gain expertise, you can see over here, there's the CISSP, which is shown over here. This is actually by a different organization. It's organized by the ISC. CCIE Security is a certification exam from Cisco. So you actually have a mix of certifications in the information security space.
Does Patriot Consulting, what kind of area does that cover?
Yeah, so we're on the consulting side. As a Microsoft consultant, we'll be brought in order to give advice and recommendations or assistance with Microsoft technology. Organizations that buy Microsoft technology may not have the skills or the expertise to implement it properly. And so as a consultant, we'll come in and give guidance and assistance with making sure that they're, implementing their big investment.
So what are some of the pros and cons for working in a consulting firm versus maybe in a private sector or the public sector?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the question, Gun, because when you work for a company, let's say you're working for a company that's in the oil and gas industry, and the company is focused on selling large reservoirs to large oil companies, right? That may not appeal to everyone. It might be hard to get out of bed, and no judgment, but the mission of that organization may not really fire you up, right? So it depends on who you are as an individual. If you're the type of individual that wants to work, for an organization like a hospital that's helping people, right? Or a cancer research institution, those are amazing organizations with amazing missions. And again, not trying to cast judgment on one type of company versus another, but when you're working for a company and you love their mission, it's you're in a privileged state to be able to wake up every morning and be, energetic about who your employer is and what they're doing for the world. At a consulting company, we are a company that helps those types of organizations be successful. So I had the blessing of being able to help an organization that helps children. One of the companies we got to help was responsible for trying to help the children stuck at the border. And another organization was responsible for distributing food to kids that are starving around the world. So if you like variety and you like getting exposed to a lot of kind of environments and learning, consulting is kind of where it's at. I think the downside of working for a particular organization is you might hit a plateau and it might get boring. Like, if you get to deploy a technology like multi-factor authentication, you do it once and now you're kind of in a support model and you're not really able to do it again because you did it once and that's all you get. And so maybe over the course of 5 years, you might put on your resume, yeah, I did that project once, but man, that was 5 years ago. We haven't really touched it since. At a consulting organization, you get to do it over and over and over again. And so you're getting a lot of repetition, you're gaining a lot of experience. And so on your resume, you could say, yeah, I deployed this technology to 20 different companies and became very good at it because that's what we were hired to do. So I think the opportunity to progress your career, consulting is really the top of the career ladder as far as I'm concerned, because if you think about it, consultants are hired when a company does not have the skills or expertise by itself to be able to accomplish it. So they're hiring outside experts to come in and help them. So the buck stops with you. You are the last sort of expert, that's supposed to know that technology or expertise.
In addition to these certificates that I can get, what are some other things that I can start learning right now to be an attractive candidate?
Yeah, so I think the number one recommendation I would have is to create a lab environment. So that's going to allow you to get some hands-on. And there's also some websites that you can go to, like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me. There's these sites that basically present kind of puzzles, and you learn hacking and cybersecurity skills through these kind of websites that simulate environment. So I would definitely start with those websites. And that's going to help you understand if you enjoy the field, if you enjoy security, before devoting 4 years to a degree and then finding out later that you don't enjoy it.
So, Joe, I've actually read multiple times that people are getting more and more concerned about a healthy work-life balance. Certain industries have their particular reputations. I also partially work in the legal industry, and I hear about lawyers being burned out all the time. How would you describe that kind of environment for the consulting industry that you are in?
So there's really two types of consulting organizations. There's the type of consulting organization that will require that the consultant have to fly to a client site. They'll be there Monday through Thursday, living out of a hotel. And then on Friday, they return home and then they have to either fly back out to the client on Sunday night or Monday morning. And, that's a very high turnover. That's a grind unless you love traveling. And so, those are long hours and sometimes they have to work on the weekend. So there is definitely, there's a lot of work that goes into that. And then you have another type of consulting organization, I'll call it a lifestyle organization. And that's very much like my company, Patriot. We give every employee Fridays off. And so everyone gets a 3-day weekend and there's no work expected during the evenings. And so you're really looking at a 32-hour work week at Patriot. Now, the 32 hours that you're working hard, but you get your evenings off and you get a 3-day weekend. So we really do at Patriot try to strive for a work-life balance, because we're looking at the overall health and life quality of employing people and wanting to create the kind of place that people want to work for, because we want them to be happy and stay here. And That's very important to us. Now, at a traditional organization, if you're in the IT department, if you're especially if you're doing any kind of patching, if you're applying security patches to servers or network equipment, then it's not uncommon for people to have to work at least one weekend, the entire weekend out of a
Mm.
month. Other organizations, I know some financial services and credit unions and banks where their employees are having to work almost every evening
Wow.
and almost every weekend. It's really sad, actually. And those people are leaving those jobs. It's not healthy. It's not a good work life balance.
Thank you so much for all the information that you shared. I'd like to close it off with this question. So nowadays, it seems like networking is almost not an option anymore. It seems like you kind of have to do that. Now, in business school, people are prepared how to network. They're taught to get in touch with individuals, preparing your portfolio. But if you're not in college, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have a couple of tips for people who are starting in that right now?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you're in college, like let's say you go to USC here in Southern California, if you attend USC or Pepperdine or one of these top schools, there's an alumni network. And if you apply to a company and that HR director went to that same college, you're probably going to go to the top of the stack because there's this mutual respect and they know how hard it is at that school. So they respect the people that can graduate from there. So alumni networks are very, very effective in helping people get into jobs. And so I think selecting a college with a strong alumni network is very important. Um, but it's not everything. I went to a school that very few people have heard of, very small Christian school called Biola, and not the most robust alumni network in the world. But the point there is that you can be successful, have a great career, even though you didn't get to go to an Ivy League school, right? A big giant university. Um, and so my tip would be don't let that discourage you if you don't have an alumni network. Build your network on LinkedIn. Follow people, comment, be engaged on social media, attend networking events and conferences, mixers. There's always meetup groups that you can attend. So if you go on meetup.com, attend cybersecurity meetup groups and be social, get to know people, and I think that would certainly help. But right now the job market is so hot that if you just apply to a job and you have some of the beginning certifications like Security Plus and maybe some of the other CompTIA certifications like A Plus, Network Plus, and whatnot. And then for those that have been in IT for a while, if they're able to get a CISSP, these certifications will bring you to the top of a list, especially if you're trying to get into an entry level security analyst role or a SOC, analyst role. Those will certainly help. To be fair, I have friends that have really struggled with getting into cybersecurity roles, even though they have some of those base certifications. And so I think it really does matter if you have relationships, if you know people in an organization, that can really help you. And so look on LinkedIn and see who you might know at a company when you go to apply. Oftentimes, if you go to apply, LinkedIn will tell you, oh, you have 3 people that work there, or you're a second degree from someone. You might go on LinkedIn and ask those people, hey, would you recommend me to the hiring manager? And so that's the tip or the pointer I would have.
Do you have any last words for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I'd say get into this career if you are interested for a challenge, if you love learning, if you like helping people. Yes, there's definitely money to be made, but I do find that the people that are the most successful in this career, just probably like any career, get into it for all the right reasons. learning and helping others. And if you have a genuine kind of curiosity of how things work, there's plenty of room. There's over 3 million unfilled jobs in cybersecurity. So so come on in, everyone is welcome.